Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and they're going to share some very exciting information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is Karin. She has combined speaking experience of over 20 years, and she speaks on leadership, 7 roles of highly effective leaders, and building trust in strategic partnerships. She speaks primarily nationally and is based out of Maryland. Her books are Overcoming an Imperfect Boss, A Practical Guide to Building Better Relationships with Your Boss. And she has one coming out soon called Winning Well, A Manager's Guide to Getting Results Without Losing Your Soul. I love the title of that book. Karin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. I know that you're busy, so we'll jump right into it. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about your speaking business and how you help people become more effective?
Yes, absolutely. Well, my whole purpose is to really help leaders achieve breakthrough results in a very positive way. So it's all about building confidence and humility, and then focusing on results and relationships. So everything I do is all about that, showing that you can lead like a decent human being and absolutely get results that you need.
Okay, excellent. And let me ask you this. You worked professionally for quite a few years, and you decided to go from the corporate structure and start your own business. What inspired you to do that?
Well, it's interesting. I had 20 years at Verizon Wireless, Verizon and then Verizon Wireless. First decade was all in HR, leadership development, organizational development, which was really my passion. And then I was encouraged by a mentor. He said, you're awfully young in your career to still be, the best thing you're ever going to do here is become VP of HR if you stay on the path that you're on. Go get some field experience. And that was the best advice I could have received. So I went out and I led large call centers. I built a training organization. I led the Verizon Wireless stores. I had 2,200 people in Verizon stores. And then I was given the challenge of turning around our outsourced call center channel, which was 10,000 employees. So I really got a feel of what it was like to actually be a leader and lead real teams and large teams, not just teaching people about it, and that was so fascinating to me. I learned so much. Well, while I was doing the last job, which was the outsourcing job, I was working with 7 different companies that had these big call centers that Verizon contracted with. And I noticed that I kept telling the same leadership stories over and over to help the frontline leaders in those companies to grow, and that they were working to help people really grasp the concepts that I was trying to talk about. So I started to write a leadership blog, and one thing led to another, and it really took off. It got this international following. And people started to call me to ask me to speak externally, and I had done a lot of speaking internally, but so I did, some stuff for free because it would have been a conflict of interest to take any money. And then I started to get asked to do consulting, and I thought, oh my gosh, these people think that I have this business, not just a blog. And then I said, maybe I should have a business. This is a lot of fun. So it was a huge decision. I walked away from a lot of long-term compensation and things like that, and I gave a lot of notice because I really cared about the work that I was doing at Verizon. I maintained a great relationship there, but it was a huge, huge decision. But I have not looked back once. I've been so happy, and the business is growing, so it's exciting.
So, what would you say is the most fulfilling thing right now that you experience having your own consulting business?
Oh, it's absolutely watching people have breakthrough moments. When someone comes up after a keynote and said, I've never heard it said like that. I totally resonated with your story. I know just what to do next. Or if I'm doing consulting and I watch the results just completely turn around. I actually had a guy who used to work for me at Verizon, who's now a VP at another company, and he called me in and he said, I need some Karin Hurt magic. And he says he really feels like we transform the tide of their company. And that, I mean, that just makes you feel wonderful.
Wow, that's awesome. And the most successful people are the people who really feel passionate about what they do and have a sincere desire to help others. And I've noticed that throughout whatever career they're in.
I agree with that 100%.
So the 7 roles of highly effective leaders. One of my favorite books is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What does the 7 roles encompass? You don't have to go through all 7 of them, but what are some of the roles?
Yeah, so this has been by far my most popular keynote, and I actually, because it received so much, resonated so well with people, people felt like it was so helpful. I actually turned it into a multimedia course, which is actually launching at the end of this month, which I'm excited about too, where I take some of the stories that I tell from the keynotes, and then I incorporate it with all kinds of tools and a 360-degree assessment, and then things that people can then exercises they go back and do with their team. So I'm really hoping to spread the word on this one because I think it's really making a difference. But the first is translator. And the idea there is that a great leader needs to be able to translate the bigger picture vision into tangible actions and ideas that are relevant to whatever team they're leading. And they also need to be able to translate ideas upward from their team if their team really needs something, and translating that back up to upward management and sideways to their peers, so that they're working effectively across departments. And then the next is galvanizer. So how do you really galvanize a team to, enormous action and make that vision inspiring, so inspiring that people are so motivated to achieve it. And then I have connector, which is connecting people together and building effective teams. Builder is how do you balance feedback so that you are helping people to truly grow, and you're giving feedback, you're handling conflict, you're challenging people consistently. And then I've got backer, ambassador, and accelerator. So those are the 7 roles.
Okay, awesome. I really like the fact that you have tangible steps to which a person can take to actually achieve that. Many times you have speakers who talk and then it's kind of fluffy. So you having actual tangible steps, I think, is huge.
It's funny. People say I'm one of the most practical speakers they've ever heard.
I love
but that, and I all right. And it's so funny. Even the reviews of our book, Winning Well, it's coming out. It's like this is really useful. Like it's just really. I mean, it's common sense, but in a way that's fun. That it's interesting, but also what to do next.
Yes.
Because I wish it's like you wish somebody had handed you. I do that somebody had handed me a guidebook when I was 22. In my first leadership job. So much of this is stuff I learned along the way.
Yeah, it's so powerful, especially translator. When you said that, it resonated so strong with me that there were hairs standing on the on my arm because that's the leader's biggest challenge is, okay, you've got this vision, but how do you articulate that and convey that throughout the organization? So that's huge. Now, when during your seminars, can you take us through some of the content that you cover? And I know that this is one piece, but what's some of the other content that you cover during a speaking engagement?
Well, one of the other ones that we do that people really like is becoming the boss you wish you had. And what we do there is we have people really envision what is their ideal boss, right? If you could work for anybody, what would this person look like? And then we go and say, okay, well, why not you? Right. And then so they take these characteristics that they've come up with, and then we talk about them, and then we figure out ways, very practical ways, and I use a lot of the content from my Overcoming an Imperfect Boss book, that they can do to achieve that if they're a manager already for the people they lead, but how they can also work in the relationship that they have with their boss to improve that relationship to make it more effective.
Okay. And then do you actually have them outline or write a paragraph of what their ideal boss looks like so that they have a framework to go
Yeah, I have a model that I call the real boss model. So it's so it's R is results, and E is energy, and A is authenticity, and L is learning. And so I have characteristics under each one of those. And so I have them imagine each one of those things. And then I also have a survey that's around that where you can sit down with your boss. I mean, ideally, you go through this seminar and you're sitting there with your boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go back and you do the survey together where it says, in each of these 4 categories, how are we doing? And you each complete it independently, and then you come together and you talk about it. And the power in that conversation is enormous.
What is the biggest breakthrough that you have experienced while either speaking to a group or working with an organization?
Well, I've had a couple that have been really significant recently. I would say one breakthrough that was really, I think, just so personally meaningful was with a smaller company, more like 400 employees. But I was working. Here's the interesting thing: all of the managers were from Serbia, and did not speak full English.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the employees were from Mexico and didn't speak full English. Now imagine, you've got so many dynamics there, right? You've got the cultural dynamics, the language barriers, and I worked with these managers and they had never had any management training. And I really worked with them to help, think about, because their style was very from Serbia, that culture was just, they were used to being told, like managers tell people what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they had been raised. And I had to go in and say, okay, I see that you think that's working, but here are some other ways to approach things. And let's try this and let's try that. And I had them role playing, and then we would role play it again, and then somebody else would jump in and have a role play again. I mean, it would just take all day, but by the end, I mean, the notes that I got from these guys, and they were all guys, it's all male culture basically. It just touched my heart so much. They're like, yeah, you know what? You don't have to be a jerk.
Wow.
Like, yeah, you don't.
I'm curious. How did you land that engagement with a Serbian company with Mexican employees?
I know. This was actually one where I had a former Verizon guy who had been on my team who went over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for our last 2 minutes, I'd like for you to take 60 seconds to, this is a fun part of the interview, and when I ask the person that I'm interviewing, if you only want to leave one thought or concept in the mind of the listeners, if they don't get anything else out of this interview, I want you to get this. Could you please convey that?
First of all, even if you are in a corporate culture that does not feel right to you, you have a lot of power within that to create what I call a cultural oasis, and to really build the work environment that you have with your own team that feels different. And you may need to, go through and play some certain roles and show up a certain way, upwards and sideways. But if you really want to be a leader who leads with confident humility, you can do that in any circumstance. And if you do that, if you lead that way, you will have the long-term commitment of your employees, and you will achieve breakthrough results. I know that from experience. I've led the way that I'm teaching people to lead for a long time, and I have a long track record of turnaround to show for that. So I would say have confidence in your ability to manage your relationship with your boss more effectively. Have confidence in your ability to build strong relationships with your peers, and with your direct reports. And it's worth it. It's worth it to invest the time.
Excellent advice. Now, Karin, if the listeners would like to contact you or your organization, find out more about your services, utilize your services, how can they do that?
Yes, so the best way is through my website, which is letsgrowleaders.com. And I also have my multimedia course is inspire.letsgrowleaders.com.
Okay, excellent. Well, Karin, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was very powerful and enlightening information that you shared with our listeners.
Oh, I so appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.